Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Today is all about horsetail. I will tell you interesting things about horsetail and we will also do some planting later on, and then I will tell you about growing conditions and how it's propagating. Horsetail is a plant that has been around for about 350 million years, and this is why it's also called a living fossil. At that time, species used to be as tall as trees to a height of about 30 meters or 100 feet. These days, of course, this is not the case anymore, and there are about 20 species left that are still living these days from that family. Horsetail is also a close relative to ferns. One species of horsetail you may have come across already is this one here. This is called common horsetail or field horsetail. Now this horsetail is actually seen as a weed and not really as a plant that grows in a garden or should grow in a garden. And you can see it's about a foot or 30 centimeters tall, and it has quite thin stems, and at each node it grows these thinner kind of stems that grow to the side. So this is field horsetail or common horsetail, and not a plant we're talking about today, but one of the species that is quite common and seen as a weed normally that is quite invasive. Today we're concentrating on the species of Horsetail Reed, also known as rough horsetail, scouring rush, puzzle grass or snake grass. The Latin name is Equisetum hyemale, and commercially there are two versions of this that are being sold, which is the bared horsetail, and also the other one is the Kamchatka horsetail. Both of them can be found in nurseries, but they both belong to this Equisetum hyemale family or cultivar of this horsetail. Now, this type of horsetail is found a lot in Asian style or Japanese style gardens, and also in modern style gardens. And it is typically grown next to fences or along fences, along house walls, in narrow garden beds, or even in pots. You can see it also quite a lot. Horsetail is native to the northern hemisphere and is found there in North America, in Europe and in parts of Asia. And typically it grows in areas where there is a lot of moisture. So that means in wetlands, in moist woodlands, along marshes, creeks or rivers, or near ponds and lakes, or also springs. And it prefers a sandy, moist soil to grow in, and sometimes it grows even in water, not next to the water. Now let's have a closer look at the plant build-up. So horsetail consists of only one main stem, which you can see here. And this stem is hollow inside, similar to bamboo, and it has these nodes. And wherever there's a node, you see this black band around this node. Horsetail is an evergreen plant, but in cold climates, in very cold climates, it happens that these stems actually die back and then grow out again in the next season. And you can see here, the shorter ones, that this is a new growth that started this spring. So here and here you see they're still a bit brighter in color, and they will get taller and taller over the season. And the height this horsetail is growing to is to 1.5 meters or 5 feet. So that's the maximum height for this plant. Before we go planting and talk about the growing conditions for horsetail, I want to tell you quickly how horsetail spreads. So you see here on this plant that stems are starting to grow a little bit further away from this original plant, and this is because horsetail spreads by rhizomes, so underground rhizomes, again similar to bamboo actually, and they will grow out from the original plant and then build new stems that come out of the ground. And you can see those two are existing ones, and here there's some new growth here, and also actually here you can see two right there where my thumb is, that are coming out in this season. And in warmer climate zones, this type of horsetail can be very invasive actually, and it's advisable, if you plant it in the ground and you wish to control it, to actually put a root block around it, or to just plant it in a pot. Then you do not have this problem, because it can be really very invasive and it can be a problem. In our garden here, we're in a climate zone 6 and we do not have this problem. It actually doesn't grow enough, and I'll show you that later. But in warmer areas, it can really be a problem how fast it grows. The other way horsetail can spread is by spores. And by spores, that means there will be certain stems that come out that are spore bearing. At the moment I can't see any of them, but just as an example, so this would look similar to that, normally in a brown color, and they would build a cone at the top where they have spores in there. One of the spots where we planted some of the horsetail we got during our plant haul is here. This is actually next to our well, and this was an empty spot really, and we thought this would look really nice in this setting. In this position it gets a lot of sun, or more sun than the other horsetail we have, so we'll see how that goes. And you can see here it seems to like it, because everywhere here you see all these new stems coming out from the ground. Right here. So horsetail, generally speaking, or the horsetail reed, is hardy in USDA zones 3 to 11, so this is quite a wide range. And the soil it prefers is a sandy or gravelly loam or clay type of soil. And you can see here what we have done. We have mixed planting soil with our existing loam type of soil, and we cut out a certain area here from the existing ground, and then put this horsetail actually a bit lower. And that's because it has a very high water requirement. So horsetail needs to be kept moist at all times, otherwise it will turn yellow and die off if it gets too dry. And horsetail can be planted in the ground like we did here, and also actually it can be planted in water. Where we live here, it's usually sold in nurseries under the pond plant section. So make sure when you plant it, you keep it moist at all times when it's planted in the ground. Now let's have a look to the other horsetail, and this is also where we will be planting the one you saw before in the video. Just follow me out here. So that horsetail down here has a sunny position, that's one option. The other option is to plant it in a partial shade position, or actually what also works, this position is more like a full shade position. This is not 100% ideal for the horsetail, but also here you can see that new shoots are starting to, or new stems are starting to come out of the ground. You see everywhere here. And in this area, it's what I mentioned before regarding being invasive and spreading. It does not really spread a lot. This is the only runner we've had in the, I think it was at least 3 years that we had this horsetail planted here. So you see we planted this strip, and the only one that got out of that area is this here, which is really nothing compared to other areas where it spreads like crazy. So what happens sometimes with this horsetail reed is that the top parts start to die off, and you see they turn brown and go down to a certain node, and then they either break off by themselves anyway, or you can just break that off. So usually I clean it up every few weeks. This happens, you see here on some other ones as well. And the other thing I wanted to show you here is on that stem, sometimes it happens that new narrow or smaller stems grow out from nodes, as you can see here. And this is actually also another method how to propagate the horsetail, or how the horsetail propagates itself. So assuming that this stem would bend over time, and then these would just keep growing out from the, if that stem would be lying on the ground. So that's the third propagation option for horsetail. What we want to do in this area here is to make it a bit more dense. The reason it doesn't grow that much, especially here, is because there isn't that much light, because it's pretty much a full shade position, which works as you can see, but it's not 100% ideal. And so we want to fill this area in, and also we want to make it a little bit wider. Not too wide, because otherwise I think you would lose the effect of this horsetail strip, but just a little bit. And we'll have these 5 plants that I showed you before, or that you saw before, and these 3 little ones, those here, they are the same, they are just younger plants. And I'll be placing those here, and then I will be putting them into the ground. I will get started with 2 larger ones, and those I think are good to fill in this more sparse area there. Something like that. And then we got 2 more here. Those I'll be placing them here to fill in that space. And 1 more. We'll see maybe here. And then my eye. And then these small ones I think I'm just going to put in between here. Something like that. To just fill out this area here. So that's the idea. And what I will do, I will dig out one larger area here, and then I will backfill this in with our soil partially mixed with planting soil. I may even put a little bit of sand in to give it its natural environment. So when planting horsetail in soil, the rhizomes, they usually sit at about a depth of 2 inches or 5 centimeters. If you plant horsetail in water, then the rhizomes can be submerged to a depth of 10 centimeters or 4 inches. So that works as well. And regarding the soil pH, horsetail grows in a soil pH range of between 6 and 7.5. So that's slightly acidic to neutral and a little bit alkaline actually. So kind of a normal soil pH range. We have a soil pH of 5 actually, but the horsetail does not seem to have an issue with that. Here I'm now mixing the soil to plant the horsetail, and we had a slight change of plans, you'll see in a minute. And what I've done here, because the soil I dug out was really very hard clay and loam soil, and it was really not a very nice type of soil. And so I've only taken a little bit of the soil I dug out, and this is mixed with some sand and with organic planting soil. And this is just a normal planting soil, so not acidic one. This is just for the normal plants. And now I'm mixing this all together, and this will give a nice soil mixture for the horsetail. So I've dug a trench here, and this is so that I can fill this really hard, soil here out with nice planting soil for the horsetail, so it has also easier times spreading actually. And we had a few more plants left other than the ones I showed you before, and we decided to actually plant them all here. So we will plant kind of a second row, but I will try to plant it as close to those as possible, because I do not want it to be too wide, because I think then it doesn't have this effect anymore. In the gaps where the older horsetail didn't spread too much, I've put these smaller plants, so the younger ones. We have one here, one here, one here, and I have 2 left for the back there. I'll put them in later. And now I will be placing and planting the larger ones in this row here. So I will just continue planting the last ones. We'll show you a final shot at the end when it's finished. And after I've done planting, I will soak them properly in water, because also the pot ones were a little bit dry. And regarding fertilizer, horsetail does not really need fertilizer. If the soil is really a poor soil, you can put a little bit of fertilizer, but it's not necessary really. And this brings me to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.